Hollywood A-lister Ryan Reynolds could be about to take on his next big role.
Fellow A-lister Rob McElhenney is bidding with Reynolds.
They could be about to launch a takeover at Wrexham Football Club.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
But has Hollywood not shown that football ownership's pretty much a piece of cake?
I wouldn't put it past Wrexham. With the momentum they've got, to go up into the Premier League. I think it's a great story for Wrexham.
From a forgotten fifth-tier club to knocking on the Premier League's door, is Wrexham about to complete the greatest football fairy tale of all time? Maybe. However, there is one consequence that no one is talking about, but more on that later. Let's start from the beginning, and that beginning includes joining the Football Records. We upload new videos every single week. Now cue the story. Wrexham AFC is a club built on history, not headlines. Long before global attention turned their way, they were a small Welsh team with a proud identity, a loyal fan base, and a habit of punching above their weight. Established in 1864, Wrexham is the third oldest professional football club in the world. It's a fact that often gets lost in the noise, but one that says a lot about the kind of place this club occupies in football's long, winding story. This isn't a club that was manufactured for attention. It's one that's been shaped by generations of locals, by years of modest highs and difficult lows, with a belief that things could one day get better. Let's insert the likes of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney when they announced their intention to buy the club in 2020. The reaction, bit of a mixture of excitement, confusion, and skepticism, and for good reason. Celebrity involvement in football, it's not unheard of, but it's rarely had such a deep and sincere pitch. They weren't just investing in a team, they were investing in a town, and they made it clear that they wanted to do things the right way. The arrival of the duo instantly brought energy and newfound visibility, but it also brought pressure. Wrexham were no longer just a National League club. They were a story and a marketing vehicle, but credit where it's due. Since the takeover, the club has been built up rather than torn apart. First major step came with a promotion to League Two in 2023 after 15 years in the National League. It didn't take long for another move, as promotion to League One the following season, signaling that the team wasn't just riding a wave of goodwill, but had developed a core of players and staff who knew how to win. The current squad reflects that evolution. It's a mix of players who have grown with the club. Look at Paul Mullen, who chose this project over safer, higher league options. The coaching staff, led by Phil Parkinson, has also proven adept at adapting at each level. Parkinson's appointment wasn't flashy, but it was smart. He's a manager with a history of getting results in the EFL who understands the grit and the grind of promotion races. But now comes the hard part. Wrexham are about to enter the championship, a ruthless division infamous for its difficulty, with many decorated clubs stagnating, wishing for a day to return to the promised land. There are no easy games. Matches come fast and physical, and the mental demands are high. And for Wrexham, every weakness will be tested. There's also the reality of resources. While the club is in a much stronger financial position than it was a few years ago, the championship is a different level. Some clubs are still benefiting from the parachute payments after dropping out of the Premier League, while others are finding new investors to bankroll that final promotion attempt. It's just a different landscape compared to the leagues prior in the English system. Wrexham will need to continue building off the pitch as much as on it. Recruitment, fitness, and strategy all become even more important. The club will be operating under a different lens with much less room for error. That said, they're not coming into the league blind. Behind the scenes, there's been steady investment in infrastructure. The club has expanded its medical staff, improved training facilities, and is slowly modernizing its operations. The racecourse ground is also being upgraded to meet the demands of higher level football, which speaks to a longer term vision. And the elephant in the room, and what sets Wrexham apart, is their ability to generate attention. And not only to generate, but then convert that attention to tangible support. Thanks in large part to the success of the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, the club now has a global following. That's translated into increased merchandise sales, packed away-ins, and brand partnerships that wouldn't normally be available for a club at this size. That visibility isn't just a marketing win. it could make a material difference on the pitch with the increase in revenues. Having the resources to strengthen the squad, retain key players, and attract talent matters in a league as competitive as the Championship. And while some will dismiss this as a product of celebrity ownership, it's more accurate to say that the club has made the most of an opportunity. They haven't just chased clicks, they've built a football club with real ambition. And that same ambition now has a clear target: promotion to the Premier League. This upcoming season will tell us a lot more about how far or how close Wrexham is to reaching that next stage or that next goal, and whether the club can continue adapting, the players can rise to these new levels, the support, local and global, can keep pushing them forward, or if they're going to struggle, if there's going to be some additional adversity. Because if Wrexham can survive and thrive in the Championship, they'll be within touching distance of something that once felt impossible. It will undoubtedly be a cultural moment. When you strip away the cameras, the star power, and the storylines, the question remains: does Wrexham have what it takes on the pitch, in the boardroom, and behind the scenes to actually reach the Premier League? And to answer that, we have to look at these three things: footballing structure, squad quality, and club growth. Let's start with the football itself. Wrexham's on-pitch progress has been consistent and calculated. In the National League, they built a team far advanced for that level. Players like Paul Mullen or Ollie Palmer and Luke Young formed the backbone of a side that wasn't just skilled, but mentally strong and with certain levels of pedigree. But League Two and League One demand more than just spirit. Tactical adaptability becomes crucial, so does squad depth and game management. Phil Parkinson's system, which relies heavily on structured pressing and direct play and transition, proved effective through both promotions. Still, stepping up to the Championship is an entirely different demand. This is where things tighten. Teams in the Championship are faster, they're more tactically fluid, and can punish mistakes quickly. Wrexham's current squad will need some reinforcements. The spine is strong, but the Championship is a marathon, and recruitment will be key. In recent windows, Wrexham have shown an ability to attract players who buy into the project. Ben Tozer dropped from the Championship to join. Elliot Lee, a technically gifted midfielder with higher league experience, also made the move. This means improved scouting networks, better use of data analytics, and potentially tapping into Premier League loans. There have been recent developments in that area. Liberato Kakache has recently joined the Welsh side from Empoli and has become their record transfer up to this point. It is a signal that recruitment is starting to be considered in Europe as well as in England, and Parkinson will have to handle the pressure of expectation across all of this. He's taken Wrexham from the non-league all the way up to Championship levels, and he's navigated the chaos of celebrity ownership, a global fan base, and rising expectations without losing the dressing room. But the question remains about whether he's the man to lead the club all the way. And as Wrexham climb, they'll eventually need to evolve from a direct high-energy team into one that can control the games and adjust their approach depending on the opposition. I'm not saying that we need prime Barcelona, but in order to have success at the highest levels, it's almost mandatory to have successful versatility. The club has shown loyalty to Parkinson, and rightly so. But if Wrexham find themselves stalling in the Championship, or if the Premier League becomes a realistic short-term goal, they may have to face a difficult decision. It wouldn't be a slight on Parkinson, it's just a sign of a club's growing ambition. Shall we discuss infrastructure? This is where Wrexham have made the most underappreciated progress. Quietly and steadily, the club has begun modernizing behind the scenes. Only a few years ago, their training facilities were closer to semi-pro standards. Respectfully. Today, they've invested in the new medical setups, expanded coaching departments, and started upgrading the racecourse ground into something more suited for higher league football. These improvements might not grab the headlines, but they don't go unnoticed, and they're quintessential for progression. A modern Championship club isn't about 11 players on a Saturday. It's about recovery, preparation, conditioning, and analytics. And all these components have rightfully had significant investment from the people above. Reynolds and McElhenney have done more than just bring attention. They've set a cultural tone with professionalism and bringing certain levels of accomplishment in their own stories, their own right. Neither of them might have direct football experience, but as brands and business owners, they aren't lacking in reps. Yes, they have ambition, but they're not reckless. They've shown an understanding of how football works, and maybe more importantly, or more crucially, they've surrounded themselves with people who actually know the game. There's also a commercial edge. Wrexham are now one of the most talked about teams in the world. particularly in the States, for better or for worse. Their documentary has earned multiple awards. They've secured partnerships with global brands. They sell more shirts than many Premier League sides. That kind of visibility creates revenue, and that revenue can be reinvested directly into the club's growth. You have an almost instant return of investment. And yet, with all this, there still are some barriers. The jump to the Premier League isn't linear. Wrexham won't be immune to that. So what could logistically derail them? Injuries to key players would be one. A lack of tactical flexibility could be another. Over-reliance on a small core group or an inability to improve the depth of a squad might create potential issues. We can get into speculation and hypotheticals, but we need to see them in action. The recruitment model has always been to attract players from higher divisions with monetary and commercial benefits. We have seen Rob McElhenney doing press tours with Stephen Fletcher and Elliot Lee. Footballers love to grow their personal brands, and joining Wrexham has a huge and unique benefit in that regard. But that can only go so far, because above personal brand is glory. Footballers want to be playing for the best teams, and the ones that can be promoted are always more favorable. So Wrexham will still need progress on the actual pitch in order to retain and recruit talent. But here's the thing, they don't need to rush. This isn't a club that has bet everything on one season. Their growth has been layered, each step building logically on the last. They've gone from non-league to League One, now in the Championship, not by gambling, but by executing a plan. The Premier League is not out of reach. On a personal angle, I might argue it seems likely, but not immediate. Bournemouth, Luton, Brentford all climb the pyramid of making smart decisions and staying the course. Wrexham, with their global backing and local soul, might just be next to follow. In football, momentum is everything, and right now, Wrexham has more of that than most. Football is more than a game. It's woven into the fabric of communities, identities, and cultures. If Wrexham reach the Premier League, the impact will ripple far beyond points on a table or television ratings. It will touch people in Wales, reshape British football culture, and send a message around the world about the evolving nature of the sport. Wrexham is a town with deep roots, but few global spotlights. Historically, Welsh football has often played the second fiddle to the English leagues. Even within Wales itself, the country's biggest clubs have frequently competed in the lower tiers of the English system without capturing a wider attention. If Wrexham is able to reach the Premier League, it would mark the first time a club from North Wales has competed at the very top level of English football. That alone is a seismic shift. Imagine a young footballer growing up in Wrexham or nearby towns, seeing their local team play alongside giants like Manchester United or Liverpool. That's the kind of representation that can change futures, drive investment in grassroots football, and strengthen community ties. However, there's always concern if promotion were to happen. The success of Welcome to Wrexham has introduced millions around the world to this club and its journey. If Wrexham were to reach the Premier League, it would bring a new narrative to the global stage. This hybrid identity as both a football club and a media phenomenon. And naturally, with that further growth of the club's fame, you might price out the locals and insert more tourists at the racecourse ground. Players would be remembered more like characters from previous seasons of the show than actual footballers who impacted the club. The pressure to perform would increase exponentially. The club would face intense scrutiny from media and fans worldwide, especially when coming up short. Balancing global attention with local roots is a delicate task and not necessarily one that we've seen at this scale, at least not previously. And the decisions that Wrexham's management chooses would also shape how the story unfolds. So when we think about Wrexham's journey, the question isn't just whether they can get to the Premier League, it's what that arrival would actually look like and what it would mean for the organization and the city itself. Is it possible for Wrexham to make it to the Premier League? Of course, anything is possible, but it won't come easy. And if they do, the impact will be felt far beyond Wales, far beyond the footballing space. And for those who have followed the journey from the very beginning, it will be the most remarkable chapter yet.